Uh, my presentation is on action beats and the 3 stages of action beats. First stage, of course, writing. Um, an action beat is just a part in the script where something happens. So it could be something as simple as saying, uh, Kirk meets Gorn, they fight. Um, Now, if you're going to use something as broad as that, you could end up with, you know, something as terrible as Kirk versus Gorn. Uh, so you want to be as creative as possible in your action beats. You also don't want to use complete sentences because it's a script. You're just saying something. You want to say something more like uh, Kirk punches at Gorn, dodges, barely gets away. Something descriptive, but at the same time flexible enough for your crew to work around. Whatever environmental things they have to work around. Um, and that's writing. Um, the next step would be to actually film the action beat. And for that, there's a couple different tricks that people use, such as messing with the film speed. When you record at a higher film speed, you lose the motion blur. So it gives your film a more crisp kind of action-y, I guess. It's this kind of Saving Private Ryan look, where things are just kind of in your face. A lot of people use it nowadays. And they shoot on like 60 frames per second rather than 24 or 30. And the next thing is also deciding whether or not you want to use a tripod or handheld. Most people nowadays are using the handheld look, which does kind of bring you into the thing, but I think it's overused to a point now that it just kind of gives you a headache, which could be what you're going for. Also, when you're filming, you want to make sure you get enough coverage so that it can be edited together coherently. Even if you have the best looking scenes ever, if you can't edit the two pieces together, they're pretty much worthless. Which brings us to our third step, which is editing. When you're editing action, you want to keep the action moving. You want to clip a lot of longer scenes. Like if you have a scene of a guy walking across the room, you don't have to show the entire guy walking across the room. You could cut, a scene of him at the end of the room, one of him in the middle, and one of him at his target. And it just kind of condenses time and keeps everything going. Next thing is cutting on the action, which is a technique that they use all throughout the fight scenes, where you have one action go and then you cut and you show the kind of the reaction. Now the two scenes, they don't actually have to be shot even on the same day. They just have to make sense when they're edited together. And the perfect example I have for this is this nasty fish hook by Jet Li. There we go. Now the scene of him, of course, sticking his hand in somebody's mouth doesn't necessarily have to be followed through with him ripping the guy's head off or whatever. You can just show the next scene of him flipping through the air, and people will, in their mind, put the two pieces together. Other important points are keeping the motion going in the same direction. You want to make sure that your guys stay pretty much on the same sides of each other. If you're constantly switching back and forth, your viewers can get confused. If you break the 180 rule, which is filming from one side, film from the other side, a lot of people will, lose track of who they're actually watching, and just adds for a more confusing scene. if you watch most of this, you'll see just primarily on the left, even when they're spinning around each other. He always ends up back on the left there. Other things, at the end of your action beat, you want to make sure that you bring it down. This gives the audience a chance to actually reflect on what they saw, to take in the action, and kind of understand the consequences of the action. If you have a scene where somebody gets shot, you know, you don't want to jump straight into the next action scene because that shot isn't going to matter. You know, it's just it's just going to be a trivial flesh wound or something. But if you actually want them to feel like the guy is wounded, you got to show a slowed down version of the guy wounded. Or if somebody dies, you actually want to bring the action down so that they can reflect on the loss. If you go straight from a scene where somebody dies to the next action scene, people will quickly forget that somebody actually just died, and it makes the death completely meaningless. A good example of that would be the new Star Trek, where the scenes are so action-filled that by the end of the movie, it's exciting, but at the same time, you don't really know exactly everything you saw. You haven't reflected on any of it, and the deaths of a lot of key characters just kind of flash by as though they were nothing. Let's see, yeah, and then of course good sound. Being as how you're not going to be shooting actual bullets at people and actually punching people, you're going to need a lot of sound effects to make it real. And yeah, those are the three main components of action.